Right guys and girls, Mark Crossfield here at Cala Golf Resort in Spain, and I'm talking to you today about 5 approach shots you need in your game. If you've got access to playing these approach shots and you feel that you can pull them off, your scores will come tumbling down. Let me know in the comments down below if you feel like I've missed an approach shot that you think you need to get out there and lower your scores more. But if you get these 5 down and these ideas, I think a lot of you can make a lot of gains. Let's get stuck in. So I've got the dream scenario here, one that we all want, good players and average golfers to beginners. I've hit a great drive. I'm in the right side of the fairway, which gives me access to really looking down at this flag. I've hit a good drive, I'm a little high, I'm excited, and it's a perfect lie. Quite often from this position, what I do see is golfers get a little bit overexcited in what they've achieved to what they can then achieve again. So what I mean by that is I am in a perfect position here to say attack the flag compared to if I was in the rough or blocked out by the trees. But the thing is, and be honest with yourself, how good are you at hitting 2, 3, 4, 20 good shots in a row? I know for me, I hit a good shot, the chance of me hitting an equally good shot for the next one, well, maybe feels a little bit slimmer. So it's got to be, your game's got to be built around clear objectives for each shot. So even though this is the perfect situation, I am not going to still take on more than I should do relative to my ability level. So we're 156 middle, pins I think right at the front, and there's a drop off of the front. So if I miss this green short, I'm going to have a very, very tricky chip. It will kick in a little bit from the left, and if I go off to the right, I'm in trouble. So that green pin is in the middle of the green. I'm actually going to aim left of it. So even though I'm in the perfect example of an attacking position here, I'm still taking into account the variables out there. What I'm not doing, which I see lots of amateurs do, is they get to the ball after a great shot, the green light, just this is green light, go, go, go out the flag. Their mates up in the trees up on the left and they hack out kind of somewhere near the green and chip up and make a 5 or a 4. I go for the green, leave it in the worst place I could leave it, duff my chip down there, and I make a 6. From the middle of the fairway, I've made a 6. We've all said those things. Keep your targets, keep your objectives sensible and within your abilities. Understanding those abilities through every shot, even on the highs and the lows, will really help you with your approach play. So yes, this 9-iron is going to be a bit more attacking than it would be if it was a 6-iron into this green, but it's not going to be going straight at the flag. If it does, it will be an accident. I'm aiming for my miss, even though I'm in the perfect spot. Hit a nice shot. It's actually going just onto the left side of the green. Perfect. I've got a sensible plan and I keep executing it, even when I get a little overexcited with a good tee shot. Fairway bunkers. I see amateurs get really stuck in these. Some useful tips to get out of them. So number 1, you got to clear this thing in front of you, the lip. I feel I can get a 7-iron over that, so what I'm going to do is instantly go to my 8, where I feel the 7 can get over that. If it doesn't, I am going to be having a hatful of shots. So just making sure you have enough loft to get over the lip, even though we are trying to advance it as far as possible, is just such a safe and repeatable play to get out of these things. Bear in mind, the idea is to catch this clean, so I'm going to try and pick it off the top without touching the sand much. I might get a slightly lower launch with that kind of idea, so again, going up in loft might just help me make sure I get over that lip. The triggers you can use to help you pick that ball off the top of that turf or the sand. So number 1, I like to push the ball position a slight bit further forward, let's say an inch further forward than where I would have it with a regular 8-iron from the fairway, because that's just going to allow me to get a little bit more level with my angle of attack, so I get a bit more plucky. Next thing I'm going to do, once I've wiggled my feet into the sand for a bit of traction, I'm going to stand a little bit taller in my setup, just a fraction, hands a fraction higher, back a little bit straighter, a little bit more up. I'm going to feel like I'm coming like 2 millimeters higher than I would into my low point than off the fairway, just to get the feeling of that pluck. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the top of the ball rather than the back where I would normal focus, and then what I'm going to do is I come to hit the ball, I'm really going to try and get up through my legs to get that, keep that height and get a little bit higher to make sure the pluck is in place for the big advance forwards. So a little taller, get that height through my lead leg as I come in to hit the ball and pluck it. Lovely. moving it forward. Can't reach the green, but I have moved that forward a good 160 yards, so I haven't got much left in. You can see I still touch the sand. I'm just trying to take as little as possible and get a whole lot of ball. Get over the lip, often take one more club than you think, so up in loft. Get a little bit taller in your address. Feel that you're staying tall as you come through and hit the ball, and try and look a little bit more, focusing on the top of the ball just to help that strike point move up. You'll start advancing them. One of my favourite approach shots, I use it in so many situations, and I don't see enough players, certainly a varied handicaps player in this shot, the punch shot. So the punch shot is me trying to knock the ball down lower, take a club like an 8-iron that I've got in my hands here and hit the ball down in a little bit lower. Now, why would I do that, and why would you do that? First point, the technique that we'll run you through here, which I'd like you to practice, feels safe, it feels secure, and it feels repeatable. The shape of shot I tend to get out of this punch shot, and lots of people do because of the ball position, it tends to draw a little bit to the left, or if you're bringing like left to right movements to the table, I'm quite neutral, so it turns me into a draw. If you're bringing left to right movements of your golf ball to the table, it might straighten you out, still go in a little bit lower. And why I want it to go in a little bit lower, well, I might want to go under trees, I might want to come out of the rough and get the ball running, I might want to be on the fairway like I am here and have the ball land a little bit more like it's going to run forward, so up a tier, up the green, those kind of ideas. And the reason the punch is such a useful shot is it really encourages ball then turf striking. So the other situation where it's just brilliant is on dodgy lies. Put me in a bit of a divot, again put me in the rough, put me on a slightly sandy bare lie, like these fairways are really cut tight. A punch shot can be a standard approach. So what are you trying to do with a punch shot? So I'm going to point my face slightly towards the right side of the pin, knowing the ball's going to turn to the left. As I do that though, I'm making sure the handle is way forward of the ball. So I've got that handle forward because I'm trying to take that loft with handle lean off because I'm hitting a punch. I want to hit it lower. The other thing I'm going to do is try and encourage this downwards and through impact while taking loft off. So to encourage that movement, once the club is set in place and my grip, which is normal, is in place, I'm going to set that ball position towards my back foot, so it's back of center. Now you can play with how far back you put the ball, as in the further back it goes, the lower it might go, and it might tend to draw a little bit more. So I'm going to go just 2 inches, say 2 to 3 inches inside of trail foot, handle up towards lead leg. I'm then going to load my pressure in my address up on my lead foot. I'm going to feel about 70% of my pressure on my lead foot, and as I make my swing I'm going to feel like I keep that pressure on my lead foot, so I'm going to feel like I'm ahead of the ball. And then the other big thing I'm going to do is keep the speed on, because it's a punch, it needs a certain amount of force, but I'm going to have a sawn off, held off follow through as I try to make sure it doesn't draw too much and that that club is pushing down through impact. Lovely. See how my follow through is shorter? That ball's drawn up towards the flag. Take that all day long. The punch shot is a great way of getting out of variations of lies because the swing feels shorter both sides, so you don't make a massive backswing, you shorten that backswing because your pressure stays forward, and then you shorten that follow through. Again, it just feels super safe. The amount of times I've used the punch shot when I'm a little anxious, a little nervous, and the lie is a little wobbly is huge, where I see amateur golfers just playing the same shot from every lie and wondering why they get higher variance of shots. Get the punch shot in your game, it's killer. We all end up in here, more than we want, the rough. Now, there isn't actually huge amounts of rough here at La Cala, but this lie has a lot more grass around it than a fairway lie. This is a version of the rough, and as the rough gets more severe, don't worry, these tips still apply. You just might have to adjust and understand the severity of lie and what you can do out of it. And there leads in the first point of having a good approach play from the rough. So ideas to think about out the rough. I am 171 yards out, which from the fairway would be a 7-iron. That 7-iron on this situation would land on the green and stop within 10 yards, say. From the rough, that is not going to happen. The chances of that ball landing on the green for me and stopping is really slim. The chances of landing on the green and it running maybe 20 yards or 15 is higher. So what I need to do is work that into how I play this shot. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm using an 8-iron. I'm using more loft, knowing that if this ball does land, it's going to run, so I'm happy for it to land a bit short. The other thing that might happen out the rough as well is we get things called flyers, so that's where stuff gets caught between the ball and the face, doesn't get distributed out of the grooves enough, and what happens is we get lower spinning flights. So we get a good flight where it shoots off, but it's got lower spin, so it just stays going through the air for a bit longer. We've all had them. You hit a good shot, you get up there and it's like 20 yards through the green. So I'm actually easing back with loft, but then in turn what I am going to do is make sure I add enough speed to get through the longer grass, and this is something I don't see amateurs do enough. They keep the speed of their swings relatively the same between the fairway and the rough. I love to see amateurs in the rough really trying to give that ball a little bit more oomph and speed to make sure that club gets through. You could even rely on that punch shot that we talked about earlier. It's a great way of playing out the rough because it's got the speed. You just again might have to add the loft, but what you need to do is each time you get in the rough, and we all get in it plenty of times, is you need to learn your capabilities. So this rough, which is certainly not rough compared to a wet UK course, I know if this grass was a little longer and wet, it's going to come out really low and flat, and I'm going to be looking at cross bunkers that I might not be able to get over, water hazards that I won't be able to get over and stop, and I'll be changing my target accordingly. Again, I see amateurs playing far too many approach shots all the same, as if they're all one shot. You've got to get in the rough and learn your different patterns to get better out of it. The biggest concerns from this rough is the flyer, so I've clubbed down. I'm going to play a regular 8-iron, as in ball position, all in the same spot, everything the same, but I am going to give it a little bit of speed because I'm a club short, and then hope for a little bit of a bounce up. You see I've moved plenty of earth there as I tried to get through, and that's a pretty decent shot, and it is trying to chase up to the front of that green. Moving the earth, moving the rough, getting that speed is how you're going to get the most out of this stuff, which we're going to spend plenty of time in, and learning what you can do from different levels of grass, wet, dry, different lengths is huge. So making sure you don't make a mistake by hitting it in here and then just compact it with more mistakes. Put in the comments down below, is that you? I see so many amateurs make a mistake and then just make 2 more and then they're picking up. Get yourselves out of the rough, get yourself plenty of loft and get some speed going on. Downhill lie, so the ball on a downhill lie approach shot. Such a tricky shot because often an approach shot is asking you to get the ball up in the air and then land it, where this is encouraging it to come in lower and run. This is one I see so many amateurs struggle with. Obviously all sloping lies we could deal with at some point. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a fuller video on all sloping lies, but for today's top 5 I just want people to get better off the downhill lie shots, because I do see such cheap mistakes being made from these situations that you just don't need to make. So I'm a 7-iron distance out if you put me on the flat, but on this downhill lie I feel like this is going to come in really low. So I've got 2 options. I can hit this soft, so take some off it, so I could come down the handle, I could swing a little bit slower and try and come in with a little bit of a slower shot, but they tend to come in a little bit lower. This is going to make the ball come in a little bit lower, so that double whammy, some situations can really work. Links courses where you're going to run it up and where you've got a clear runway up the green, that could be a really good option. But on this situation here at Cala, the greens are built up with huge drop-offs. I'm going to try and counter some of the lowness of this approach by actually coming up in loft to an 8-iron. And it's a really common theme with all these tips, isn't it? How I'm being very aware of what loft's in my hand for the situation. It shows you the dynamicness of approach play. And I think the sterile nature in the way it's practiced on ranges, try and hit positions, even when you hit all those positions. I remember playing in tournaments, so big amateur tournaments in the UK, generally are links courses, which are really windy. I'd practice all week, getting my swing perfect. The wind would blow 20 mile an hour and I would think there's no way I'm going to hit any of those positions I've just practiced, because I can barely stand up. I needed to be able to hit different shots, and I found that frustrating, where actually that was a real part of the game, which you're seeing hopefully on this approach play video. So the ball's going to go in lower, so I'm countering that by trying to get a little bit more loft in my hand. Next thing I'm going to do is adjust to the slope, so I'm going to try and get my hips and shoulders running with the slope a little bit. The most common mistake I always see with this is people making same mistakes they'd make off the flat. You got to bear in mind, before the ball there's more ground in the way, it's raised up. Where your club might be coming in to normally hit the ball on the flat, there's actually ground there now. And the most common mistake when the ball is on a downhill lie is people fat it, or they just miss the grass and then they can't get under the ball because the club's still then travelling up, and then they fit it. So getting your body to work with the slope is a great way of trying to get the club also to work with that slope. So if I was to keep the ball position the same with this 8-iron, I'm going to just make sure that my lead knee almost feels like it's slightly more bent, like I'm really pushing down into this hip. My lead shoulder is going to come down, almost like I'm feeling like I'm slightly ahead of the ball. This is going to help me hit down the slope a little bit more. It's got feelings similar to the punch shot. Now I could also move the ball back in my stance to play this shot, which is something I have done in the past, because that will then make me get a little bit more down the slope as well, with the handle forwards to get that club going down the slope. But I want to be really careful with how much loft I take off. So in situation, again, your punch shot that you learned from earlier, it works in so many situations. This is one where it really can, but it might not work because I want a little bit of height from this loft. Now the other big tendency with this shot is to hit a little bit of a fade, so to lose it off to the right, and that is exaggerated as you give me a straighter face club. So a 9-iron and a wedge I feel I could keep pretty straight off this downhill lie. An 8-iron might just move slightly to the right. It might, if I'm drawing it, which I am a little bit in a minute, it'll straighten me out. So it does move it more to the right than my curve to the left. If you give me a 6-iron or a hybrid or a fairway wood, I'm just going to play a cut. I'm going to aim up the left and play the shape. And that's the thing, don't fight these lies, go with them, go with the lie, learn to marry up to the lie and what the lie is going to try and do to the shape of shot, and play it. And that is going to vary with different lofts, which is why it's so important you get out here and practice these variables. Now for me, because I've got a little bit more loft for this length of club, obviously the slope might counter that a little bit, but I'm not afraid to add a little bit of speed in as well, aiming up the left just to allow the ball to go straight to the left side of the green. If it does drift, I might move into the middle of the green, adjusting my weight, pressure and shoulders to align with the slope, and a nice amount of speed in there. Beautiful strike, and it stayed straighter. So where that would normally draw 5 yards, that stayed nice and straight. Oh, and that's up near the flag. Beautiful. Plenty of downhill lies when you get out on the golf course. Don't let them ruin your game. Master some of the ideas in this approach play basics, and your scoring will come down. If you've already got all these ideas, then you will have to look in other places, but you'll be amazed the amount of amateurs I play with who do struggle from these very basic daily occurrences that you'll find on a golf course, where better players can just take them on in their stride. They don't even know they're adjusting to the many variables, they're just doing it because it's so trained. Get out here and practice from the downhill lie, get in different roughs, get in the fairway bunkers and learn what lofts get over X lips in front of you, and obviously from the fairway just keep it sensible. I know it's exciting when we hit fairways, perfect position, par 5, I can reach it into whatever. The amount of people who have then put it into worse trouble from there because they've taken on a little bit too much is very, very common. Thanks for watching. If you haven't perfected the punch already, make sure you do. Subscribe as always if you like these videos. Hit that like button down there, hit the bell icon if you're already subscribed, and if you're not, consider subscribing. Leave me a comment, let me know if this video helps. I'm going to go and try and hold a putt, make a birdie.